the boardroom was suffocating. Not because of the glass walls, the heavy curtains, or even the smell of freshly brewed coffee still steaming from untouched mugs, but because of the tension that had suddenly consumed every breath of the room. Dozens of executives in sharp suits stared in horror as their powerful, seemingly untouchable leader, Victoria Hayes, the billionaire CEO who had built one of the largest empires in the country, collapsed in front of them. One moment, she had been standing tall, commanding the room with her cold voice and piercing eyes, dictating strategies worth millions. The next, her face drained of color, her body trembled, and she crashed to the floor with a sound that echoed louder than any boardroom argument ever could. "Call 911, someone screamed. Another froze, clutching his phone as though the act of dialing was too much for his trembling hands. Some rushed forward only to stop, afraid of making the wrong move. Others simply stood in stunned silence. No one dared to touch her. No one knew what to do. And that's when the doors flew open. A man stormed in, not in a suit, not in polished shoes, but in worn-out boots, jeans that had seen better days, and a shirt with a faded logo. His presence didn't match the sleek glass and chrome environment of the corporate tower, yet he carried an air of authority that no executive in that room could command. Daniel Carter. A veteran. A single father. A man who knew what death looked like. He had seen it too many times in the field. He had also learned something others hadn't: when lives hang in the balance, hesitation kills. He didn't hesitate. Move. Daniel barked, his voice sharp, controlled, and steady. Executives scattered, making room as he dropped to his knees beside Victoria. Her lips were pale, her breath shallow, her pulse faint. Daniel's hands didn't tremble. His training kicked in. He tilted her head, checked her airway, and pressed firmly against her chest. The sound of compressions filled the room, rhythmic and determined. "Come on," he muttered, his voice low but urgent. "Don't you quit on me. Not today." Nobody else moved. They only watched as the stranger, this rugged, ordinary-looking man, took command where millionaires and professionals had failed. Minutes felt like hours, but then it happened. A cough. A gasp. Victoria Hayes's chest rose again. Her eyelids flickered open briefly before paramedics rushed in, sweeping her onto a stretcher. As they wheeled her out, one paramedic turned to Daniel. "If you hadn't been here," he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Everyone knew what would have happened. But for Daniel, this wasn't about glory. He wiped his forehead, stood, and walked quietly back to the lobby where his 8-year-old daughter, Emily, sat swinging her legs nervously. She looked up at him with wide eyes. "Dad? What happened?" Daniel forced a small smile. "Just did what needed to be done, sweetheart. That's all." Little did he know, that moment, that decision, would change the course of both their lives forever. Two broken worlds meet. Victoria Hayes was a name that carried weight. To the public, she was power personified. Cold, brilliant, untouchable. But lying in a hospital bed days later, with wires strapped to her chest and monitors beeping in steady rhythm, she didn't feel powerful at all. Her assistant had mentioned that the man who saved her was in the building for a job interview. A security position. Nothing prestigious. Nothing glamorous. Just a father trying to make ends meet. For reasons she couldn't explain, Victoria asked to see him. When Daniel walked into her hospital room, Emily clutching his hand tightly, Victoria felt an emotion she hadn't experienced in years: humility. She owed her life to a man society barely noticed. "You saved me," she said softly, her voice uncharacteristically fragile. Daniel nodded. Anyone would have done the same. Her lips curved into something between a bitter smile and a sigh. No. They wouldn't have. Challenges and cracks in the armor. At first, Victoria kept her walls high. She was skeptical of Daniel's motives. She was used to people wanting something: money, favors, power. Why else would a man stay near her after saving her life? But Daniel wasn't like others. He refused her money, refused her job offers, and only showed up when she needed support during her recovery. Still, their journey wasn't simple. they faced challenges that tested them both. Challenge 1, her trust issues. Victoria had been betrayed by her own family, swindled by business partners, and manipulated by people she once called friends. Letting someone like Daniel into her world terrified her. "Why are you here?" she asked one night as he brought her tea. "You barely know me." Daniel's answer was simple. "Because I know what it feels like to be alone when you need someone the most. And I won't let you go through that." Challenge 2, Daniel's pride. He hated the idea of being seen as a charity case. When Victoria offered him a high-paying job, he declined. "I'm not here for a paycheck," he said firmly. "I'm here because you're a human being who needed help." This humility puzzled her. For once, she met a man who didn't want her wealth. Challenge 3, his daughter's fear. Emily struggled the most. She worried about losing her father's time, about Victoria stealing him away into a world of money and power. One night, she cried in his arms. "Dad, she's not like us. She's rich. What if she doesn't like me? What if you leave me behind?" Daniel hugged her tightly, whispering, "Nothing in this world could make me leave you. Love doesn't divide us, Em. It makes us stronger." Slowly, even Emily began to warm up to the woman who once seemed as cold as ice. Challenge 4, Victoria's health battle. Doctors warned her, the mornings filled with pancakes and laughter. Instead of endless calls, there were evenings spent watching Emily's school plays. Instead of iron walls, there were moments of vulnerability. And somewhere along the way, love bloomed. Quiet at first, hesitant, but undeniable. But the world didn't stay silent. Investors mocked her for falling for a nobody. Media headlines screamed about the billionaire CEO with the war veteran single dad. Whispers of doubt filled every corner. "You'll lose respect," her advisors warned. But Victoria looked at Daniel and Emily and realized respect meant nothing without love. The final test. Months later, disaster struck again. Victoria suffered another heart episode at home. This time, she collapsed in her kitchen. Panic could have consumed her, but Daniel was there. He caught her before she hit the ground, cradling her in his arms. Her voice was weak, trembling. "Don't let me die, not yet. I haven't learned how to live." Tears filled his eyes as he whispered, "You're not going anywhere. Not while I still have love to give." Doctors fought for hours, but she pulled through. Not because of medicine alone, but because love had given her a reason to fight. A new beginning. Months later, Victoria stood before her employees, not as the ruthless CEO they once feared, but as a woman transformed. "Wealth didn't save me," she said, her voice clear. "Power didn't save me. A man with nothing but love did. And that love gave me a reason to live again." Behind her stood Daniel, his arm around Emily. For the first time, Victoria didn't feel like she was carrying the weight of the world. She felt free. Inspiring closing. Daniel Carter, the single dad veteran, hadn't just saved Victoria Hayes from dying. He had saved her from a life without love, without meaning. And together, they proved something the world often forgets. It's not wealth, not power, not fame that rescues us in the end, it's love. Call to action. Friends, if this story touched your heart, tell me, what do you think truly saves a person in their darkest hour? Is it money, is it power, or is it love? Share your thoughts in the comments below, I would love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel Be Kind Always, where we bring you more powerful, emotional, and inspiring stories every week. Remember, kindness costs nothing, but it has the power to change and even save a life.